Welcome to this episode. Of course, we're formerly the African History Station and now the African History Fountain as we continue to spray more truths about the African past. Many people don't realize that we have African populations in Asia that date back thousands of years, including from more recent migrations than the original out of Africa migration that occurred around 50,000 years ago and led to the development of new skin tones in far-flung regions away from the mother continent. We've had much more recent migrations to Asia by continental Africans in the last 1,000 to 6,000 years. They established empires and kingdoms, and their descendants are visible in many of these locations till today, usually nowadays at the margin of societies which their ancestors once bestrode like colossi. These are indigenous people of Thailand, and these of the Philippines. These are indigenous Asians whose ancestors have been there for many thousands of years, as kings, queens, scholars, and merchants. In our study of the nations that make up the world, we've come to find that the further back we go in time, the more Africoid or African the appearance of the people, and nowhere more so than in the two nations of North and South Korea, which we'll simply refer to as Korea in this video to denote their natural state of being. The old kingdom of Korea was a mighty nation, steeped in rich tradition and culture. Due to its beauty, Korea was known as Joseon, or the land of the morning calm. Old photographs of Korea from the Joseon dynasty, which reigned from 1392 to 1910, show a peaceful life for its dark-skinned inhabitants. All of these photographs of Koreans in this video are from around 1895 to about 1902. The latest being 1935, roughly. So that was barely 100 years ago. Where have all these people gone? Where are they? That's the main reason of this video, to ask if you guys know where these people have gone. Please tell us, because we're not infallible and we don't claim to have all the answers. So if you know what happened to these people, because this is not 1,000 years ago or even 500 years ago, for which you might argue that they blended in with the current dominant population. This was barely 100 years ago. There could well be people alive today, well past 100 years of age of course, and living up in some remote mountains of Asia, who were alive and remember when people in Korea looked like this. So it wasn't that long ago at all. Where are these people? When you visit Korea today, here's what you see. A much lighter skinned population. Was there some sort of ethnic cleansing, or were they driven out of the country, or worse? The actual presence of these blacks in Korea is noted by writers such as Arnold Henry Savage Landor, who visited Korea and wrote in 1895 that naturally, the continued incursions of both the Chinese and Japanese into this country, Korea, have left distinct traces of their passage on the general appearance of the people. And of course, the distinction which I shall endeavour to make is not so marked as that between whites and blacks, for the Koreans, speaking generally, do bear a certain resemblance to the other peoples of Mongolian origin. Further observation will find all over the kingdom men as black as Africans, or like the people of Asia Minor, that's Anatolia, Turkey. Oh, and thanks Arnold for informing us indirectly that the people of Asia Minor, or of Anatolia, Turkey, once also looked as black as Africans. And we have confirmation that blacks were there from at least the 8th century, according to historian J. Kyun Kim. The oldest historical record on black in Korea comes from the Goryeo family. While these black people were from Thailand, they were described as black by the first king of Goryeo. As far as the written record reveals, the first African black person in Korea was Haegwi, the sea ghost, in 1598. But of course, the African presence there goes much, much further than the written record. So it is in the historical record that black populations lived in Korea in ancient times, and we are looking at their descendants in these photographs. During the Joseon dynasty, right alongside the king, there were these dark-skinned people who formed a class of men known collectively as the Yangban, and they governed society. A Yangban was essentially a literati, a member of the intelligentsia. The Yangban was expected to hold public office, follow the Confucian doctrine through study and self-cultivation, and help cultivate the moral standards of Joseon society. As an elite class, the Yangban enjoyed many privileges, and actively sought to preserve the purity and exclusivity of their group, for instance, through marriage only among members of the Yangban class. A defining characteristic of the Yangban was his scholarly knowledge and pursuits, specifically of the Confucian classics and thought. Numerous texts authored by members of the Yangban class reveal the new ideas they developed, how they debated among themselves, and how they developed government policies. Many in the Yangban class were accomplished artists practicing calligraphy and ink painting, traditionally the two media considered most appropriate for literati. Ink monochrome paintings of bamboo, orchid, plum blossom, and chrysanthemum were especially popular among the Yangban. Originally associated with the four seasons, these motifs came to represent the Confucian scholar, according to scholars. During the Joseon period, the country's science and technology developed remarkably. The water clock, or clepsydra, the sundial, and the armillary sphere were all invented in the early period of the dynasty. A rain gauge, the first of its particular kind in the world, was used to measure precipitation. The Yangban bureaucrats in power played a huge role in the introduction of laws, legislation, and the compilation of codes. Of course, African influence, as shown in some of our earlier videos, extended way beyond Korea. According to Chang Xing Lang, a respected Chinese professor and historian of the 1900s, a Negro empire existed in the south of China at the dawn of that country's history. Over centuries, a lot of these black-run Asian countries began having a lot of problems because there was a population explosion among the Mongolian races in the north, and they kept seeking ever more and more fertile land to settle in to the south. So there were numerous invasions from the north. It was a hell of a problem for the blacks to have to constantly fend off these forces century after century after century. It took its toll on them after a while, and they were overrun after numerous wars and battles. According to scholars, the fate of the black kingdoms and the black people of Far East Asia must be tied to increased pressure from non-Africoid peoples pushing down from Northern Asia. Also, we know for a fact that there were millions of Africans who were living in Asia, in the ancient world, well beyond the Korean islands. H. Imbert, a French scholar in 1928, wrote in his epic work, Les Negritos de la Chine, that, in the first epochs of Chinese history, the Negrito type peopled all the south of this country and even the island of Hainan, as we have attempted to prove in our study on the Negritos, or black men of the land. There are many references to these Negritos in Chinese literature. According to T. de la Coppere, the Chinese first met these tribes in 2116 BCE when they advanced eastwards of the great southern bend of the Yellow River. They are spoken of in the Zhu Li, an ancient scholarly work dated to 1122 BCE, as black and oily skinned. The earliest documented rulership of China was the Shang dynasty, which is credited with bringing together the elements of China's earliest civilization from around 1500 BC. The Shang were given the name Na Qi. Na means black and Qi means man. Na Qi, black man, under the Black Dynasty. These black Chinese established the basic forms of graceful calligraphy that has lasted to the present day. The first Chinese emperor, the legendary Fu Xi, was described as a woolly-haired Negro, and his African brothers and sisters established government, social institutions, and cultural inventions across China. Here we see the modern-day Naki in their improvised African cultural attires with the very ancient African fashion style of the X-shaped costume across the front, as in these images. For more about the African influence on China, refer to our earlier videos where we cover that really well. Now, the Chinese authorities are not in the habit of publicizing these facts at all regarding their African heritage. Indeed, as a historian notes, one American scholar noted that descriptions of remains uncovered from royal tombs have not been published since their discovery in 1935. He smugly suggested the embarrassment it would cause the Chinese people. And then we have places in Asia like Cambodia, where really major black kingdoms emerged, such as the Khmer civilization. According to Wiki, the Khmer Empire ruled or vassalized most of mainland Southeast Asia and stretched as far north as southern China. At its peak, the empire was larger than the Byzantine Empire, which existed around the same time. Here we can see the Khmer rulers and the magnificent megalithic statues and structures they left behind as a testament for all time of their African majesty at the wonderful site of Angkor Wat in modern-day Cambodia. And now, back to our people in Korea. Here you can see them wearing their African masks. And here you can see them with a mortar and pestle to make their powdered food, and you really can't get more African than the old mortar and pestle. Here you can see them praying to their very African-looking representations of the deities. Where are these people? I mean, these are actual photographs. So the charge cannot be made that we're making up stories and trying to claim the history of other people to make ourselves feel better and all that nonsense. These are clear photographs which, together with other documentary evidence provided, undeniably prove that there were huge numbers of dark-skinned, really negroid people in Korea, likely from several thousand years ago, right up till the early 1900s. Where did they go? Was there some sort of mass alien abduction event we've not been told about? Was there some sort of biblical rapture targeted specifically at the Korean blacks by the Almighty? Where are they? So the fate of the black Koreans remains an utter mystery to us here at the African History Fountain. We've searched and searched for information on what happened to them, and we've drawn blanks, just total blanks, almost as though they never existed. We actually see the absolute silence and lack of information as a form of gaslighting. We can speculate that they were driven out to another country or simply got absorbed into a lighter-skinned population, but as these images are from the early 1900s, it doesn't quite add up that such assimilation would occur so rapidly within such a short space of time as to eliminate the blacks completely from society. So if any of you has got any idea as to what happened to these people, please feel free to leave a comment below, because like they say, we learn something new every day. In closing, we'd like to just briefly appreciate these Africoid men and women who lived in Korea all those many years ago, and in China, and in Japan, and in India, and the Americas and elsewhere. The world likes to pretend you didn't exist, but we see you, we feel you, we know about you, and we honor you for the honorable, pivotal role you played in world civilization. Thanks for watching this episode. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe. I invite you to check out our African History Fountain wall art store for exclusive wall art from Africa's glorious past as the cradle of civilization. Click on the link below to get there, and look out for the next one on Africa's great civilizations.